Okay, well, let's try this again. Welcome, everybody, to the virtual zine reading, December 27th, another night at home. Looks like we have a handful of people already in the chat room talking and chit-chatting. Thank you so much. Sorry about the technical difficulties, but I think we got it going. And I was going to wait 6 minutes before we actually started this thing anyway, so this is perfect. In case you don't know me, my name's Billy, and we have 4 readers tonight from all different parts of the U.S. I'm in Albuquerque, got my buddy Ed in Jersey City, got John in Baltimore, and got Gina in Oakland. So we got East Coast, West Coast, and I'm right in the middle. If anyone has anything to say or question to ask, just put it up in the YouTube chat window. And if you want to watch this later or tell other people about it later, after tonight, we'll put it up and it'll be permanently up on YouTube on Pyrograph TV. So first of all, I want to thank Pyrograph TV. Thank you to Perry and Pyrograph.com for hosting tonight. Always taking good care of us.
Thanks for putting out a show, Billy.
No problem, no problem. If you have never been, I should put in the chat here. If you've never been to Pyrograph.com, check it out. If you enjoy art, music, writing, poetry, anything, there's all kinds of people that do videos and writing about all different types of art. So
cool.
As I said, my name is Billy. We have Ed, Gina, and John. I'm going to read first, and we're just going to go ahead and get this night started. I do a bunch of zines. I do a zine called Proof I Exist, a zine called Last Night at the Casino. I've written a couple books. I also do a zine called Behind the Zines. This is the brand new issue, just came out this week. I'm gonna start mailing it out tomorrow. Ed and Gina both have pieces in this. John's gonna do something for us next time, I bet, because I'm gonna try to talk him into it. But this is a zine about zines. It's super nerdy. If you like zines, you like that. So if you want a copy, it's brand new. All right, I'm doing a zine reading, but I'm gonna be reading from paper, not from a zine. But this is a story I just wrote today. It doesn't have a title, but I hope you like it. This year has been an incredibly frustrating year. I mean, this year has been a lot of things. It's been scary, depressing, irritating, also interesting and hopeful at times. We had to slam on the brakes and dig through some serious introspection, or at least I did. I had to dig through some serious introspection. No bars, no shows, no sports, no theater, time to self-reflect and keep it simple. But it's also been very frustrating for a lot of reasons. And of all the things I miss, travel is at the top of my list. I've spent most of my life moving around, living in different places, as well as traveling around and visiting other places. And now here I am with no job, no responsibilities, and nothing but time on my hands. I've only worked 3 months out of the last 12. If that were to happen for some non-pandemic reason, you'd better believe I would have done a couple world tours by now. And that's what's so frustrating. The very thing that gave me all this time to travel has prevented me from traveling. But what have I done instead? Don't worry, I stay very busy. And like a lot of people out there, I've used the internet pretty heavily in an attempt to feel connected to the rest of the world. The internet is amazing like that, and we're all very thankful. For emails, text messages, streaming movies, instant access to news and information, this hyper-connected global community allows us to know so much about other places. But of course, seeing a video of a place is not the same thing as being there in real life. The real truth, the real uniqueness of each place is in the details, the nuances of daily living. In Albuquerque, everyone carries around water bottles, no matter where they're going or what they're doing. In Baltimore, everyone carries around umbrellas. The way people drive is different everywhere you go. The way people talk, the way people eat. This is obvious, I know, but I love it. I love that no place is better than any other place, just different. About 5 years ago, one of my best friends was getting married in rural Maine. I'd never been to Maine before, and other than a couple trips to New York, I'd never been to the East Coast either. I decided to make use of the opportunity and explore some random new city. I booked a flight to Boston and made plans to stay with a friend of a friend. For 3 days, I just wandered around, taking it all in. Walking around a city is one of my favorite activities in the world. I can and will do this for hours with no plan whatsoever. Boston was all the things I heard it was. It felt Irish, it felt colonial, it felt like a harbor town, the kind of East Coast place where everyone knows someone who works on a boat or a ship or a dock. The drivers were aggressive and rude, and I was happy to be on the sidewalks, not in the cars. But the stereotype of the Boston masshole was evident even from the sidelines as people honked horns and flipped each other off like it was no big deal. And I love the language of places. You know that hardcore Boston accent you hear in movies? You like apples? Yeah, how you like them apples? It's exaggerated and silly. And no, people don't really talk like that in Boston, except sometimes they kind of do. You hear very small hints of it from everyone, but every now and then you meet someone that is 100% that stereotype, and it's awesome. Of all the things I saw in Boston, one of my favorite sights was nothing more than a plain, simple convenience store. The green and white awning proudly display the name of the place. The Corner Store, spelled C-O-R-N-A-H. The Corner Store, as in, hey, I'm going down to the corner store. You need anything? That was the real actual name of the store, and I loved it. When you have no plan, you have no expectations, and somehow that mindset will turn a small occurrence into a magical adventure. One afternoon, I happened to walk into Boston Common. I'd heard that phrase and knew it was a TV show with William Shatner, but I never thought about what it was. Well, it's a giant park in the middle of the city. It's the Boston Common, as in common area, the common grounds, a place to hang out and enjoy life. They were doing Shakespeare in the park, and I sat on the grass and loved every minute of it. The best parts of life are these little unplanned moments. But one of my favorite memories happened while walking around my friend's neighborhood. He was telling me about all the different houses, how old they were, all the colonial style of architecture, all that stuff. It was a clear July night and the weather was perfect, but he told me that in the winter it gets pretty harsh. Yeah, that's why we all have roof rakes, he said. I'd never heard of a roof rake, and to him it was like this normal thing. I asked him what it was. It's basically a rake with a really long handle, like 10 or 20 feet long. They have extendable handles so you can make them longer. In the wintertime, we get so much snow that people will go out and use this long-handled rake to drag the snow off of their roofs. Whoa, really? I've never heard of this. I almost thought that he was lying at first, like making a funny joke. Like when I was growing up in southern Iowa, we would take people out and go cow tipping or snipe hunting. Part of the fun of being a local is messing with people who aren't local. So I asked him if he was just putting me on. No, roof rakes are a real thing. Sure enough, when we got back to his place, he showed me the roof rake in his closet. They use them in part to lighten the load on the old colonial roofs so the weight of the snow doesn't come crashing into your living room, but also do it so that an accidental door slam doesn't cover you in an avalanche as you leave for work the next morning. 100 pounds of snow sliding off an inclined roof and straight down the back of your shirt. I thought about all the places I lived, and a lot of them were really cold, but for whatever reason, we never had roof rakes. Hell, in New Mexico, it hardly ever rains or snows. We don't even have pitched roofs. Not only are roof rakes unnecessary, it wouldn't even work on our flat roofs. So how else would I ever hear about a roof rake unless I went to Boston in person and had this unexpected, unplanned conversation? It's been 5 years since I stayed with that friend and that friend of a friend and had that conversation, but I still remember it and I still love it. In Chicago, people always say it's been a minute. That could be a short amount of time or a long amount of time. Like, when was the last time you went to the movies? It's been a minute. If it's been a long time, you say it's been a long minute. Hopefully things will calm down in the next few months because I'm already ready to explore again. I want to visit all my favorite cities and I want to go to brand new places. I want to find all the weird details. I want to learn all the things I don't know that I don't know. I want to write down the home city of everyone watching this live stream so I can come visit their city and see what their life is all about. I don't know when it'll be. It might be a long minute, but I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much. That's where y'all go like this. Thank you. I wrote that today.
Billy.
Thank you. I was making a list of all these different things about the places that I miss, and just I love weird random shit like that. So it's cool having Ed here from Jersey City and Gina from Oakland and John from Baltimore, because I've been to all three of those places and I have awesome memories of all three of those places.
You definitely got some local accents coming out of Johnny and I.
Yeah, I know, it's great. It's so funny because I know when I moved to Baltimore, I picked that up, and I don't know, even when you're in a place for a short time, you pick it up, and then people that have been in one place a long time, like they got that accent down.
Yeah, I try to shake it, and apparently it comes out pretty regularly.
I love it. Up next, thank you everybody saying hello in the in the comments. I appreciate it. Up next is going to be Gina. I want to show a couple of the zines that Gina has written. She wrote this one, Shit's Fucked, which I read years ago before I ever met her. And she's got a sequel now called Shit's Fucked Still, which she wrote about in the new Behind the Zines. She also did a zine called Dribble. So she's got a few different things out there. I met her a year ago. She was here in Albuquerque, and we went to the balloon fiesta and saw the Albuquerque hot air balloons, and it was awesome. And then a few months later, I went and visited her in Oakland and went to the Dear Diary Zine Fest. And that was the last time I left New Mexico. So speaking of travel, that was my last time I left New Mexico was to go see Gina. Yeah, Gina, hello. If you want to introduce yourself a little bit, you can. And Gina Sarti is going to be our next reader.
Yeah, hi. I wanted to let everyone on YouTube know that I haven't really left my house in 9 months, and I don't remember how to be charming or funny anymore. So please bear with me. And can you all hear me? Everything's fine?
I can hear you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Billy slept on this couch when he came to visit. So I think you are my last house guest. So a good couch. Yeah, as Billy mentioned, I wrote this zine Shit's Fucked 9 years ago. 2021 is going to be its 10th anniversary. So that is wild to me. And I am going to be reading from Shit's Fucked Still today. I guess I should get closer to the camera. But I do have a bunch of show and tell items of all of the things that I wrote about in here. I used to be an elementary school teacher, and you never just say things out loud in an elementary school classroom. You always kind of show it too. So show and tell, super fun. I did have a PSA I wanted to say before I got started. I've been trying to practice this PSA all day, and I start crying every single time I do it. So it's gonna happen. I do cry a lot. It's kind of embarrassing. But anyway, I'm gonna put a link in the YouTube comments right now. Did that work? Oh, it's too long. Okay, so my friend Meg Martin, it is her birthday tomorrow, and I just wanted to give her a shout out. She's the executive director of a really great nonprofit in Olympia, Washington. I want to get the name perfectly right. It's the Interfaith Works Overnight Emergency Shelter. I gave $50 to them today, and I was hoping that people could, if you could match me $50, that would be really great. If not, I know that, money's tight right now. $50 from you is definitely a stretch. But, maybe people could give the amount that they would have spent to head to a Zine Fest. Okay, I'm going to get away from the YouTube window because it's super distracting, although it is nice to see my friends' names. Yeah, I've been so grateful for having housing during all this. I've been grateful for my health and housing and having enough food in the kitchen, and I just can't imagine not having those things. So anyway, it's really intense. It's a really intense crisis that we're all living through. And I'm really grateful that we're here. All right, I'm gonna get started. So yeah, Shit's Fucked Still. I did the first edition in April of this year. I always thought that I would do a sequel to Shit's Fucked, but I really didn't want it to be, I wanted to do a good job at the sequel. I didn't want to write a zine that I had nothing to say. And then, the world shut down, and all of a sudden I had a lot of things I wanted to kind of just share with people. I try very hard to not be a busybody or try not to give unwanted advice. So it is totally, both of these zines are just full of unwanted advice. That is all they are. Because that's what I love to do. But I had this itch that I really wanted to get it done in my living room, in the room that I'm currently in, just in the month of April, with my printer, with just paper I had here, anything that I could have, in a lockdown, because I assumed come May I'd be out and about and, restarting my life again, because I love optimism. So that didn't happen. Over the months, I learned a bunch of Adobe InDesign, and I learned all about desktop publishing. So I learned how to do handwriting on just my home computer. So this is the second edition. It came out in September. I think it's a lot prettier with my handwriting. I hope my friend Julia is here. I did write it for my friend Julia. So I guess I'll get started. I'm kind of nervous, sorry. Introduction. Well, friends, we meet again. I hope you're doing as well as possible and that you're learning how to best hold all of these difficult emotions. Grief or anger or the exquisite melancholy of sunset when you've stayed in bed all day. I'm certainly not an expert in mental health. Therapy can really be great if you're struggling, and I restarted therapy a few weeks ago, and it is tight, therapy's the best. But these are more strategies I use to live as well as I can. I hope they're helpful. I'm thinking fondly of you. So my first show and tell is my accomplishment jar. I like to-do lists, and I put a pretty neon bead in a jar after I accomplished 10 of my daily tasks. I went to hippie school, so I never got gold stars from the teachers, but I bet this is the same adrenaline rush. Then we have the home museum, which usually is in my bedroom. But the home museum, it's so nice to look at all your favorite things displayed together. They're they're a tactile memoir or a personalized natural history museum exhibit. And here's my rainbow of sea glass. Each jar is a different color. Arrange your own home museum. Try to include an object from the major happy events of your life. Photographs, souvenirs, and tiny objects of beauty and wonder. My display is mostly sea glass, beach garbage, and green bouncy balls. One of my pieces of sea garbage is a bouncy ball from the beach, so it's like a sea glass bouncy ball. It's very tight. Whew. Okay, comfort potatoes. So I cooked some comfort potatoes today, and here's what a comfort potato looks like. Food is a joyful thing. It's beautiful to share a meal with loved ones. It makes sense that so many rituals are feast-based. This isn't about that, though. It's not about family traditions or culinary transcendence or giggling with your friends at dinner. No. This is about having a shitty goddamn day and feeling a little better with some heat and fat and salt and carbs. Comfort potatoes are an instant classic. Eat them during your next terrible mood. Then we have surprise mail, and I have little clip art images on every page. Whew, surprise mail. My friend Jordan is an incredible correspondent who sends the most thoughtful and beautiful mail. I wanted to reciprocate, so I bought him presents online. And then, well, I forgot to mention them, and the package arrived from the vendor without any indication of who sent it. My forgetfulness created a joyful mystery. Send an unexpected and unidentified gift to your friends. Life could always use some surprise sweetness. Here's the deal. So yeah, my friend Jordan sent this postcard. It's beautiful. I have it hanging on my living room wall. It says, "You love life madly, but sometimes you forget that. Don't forget that." I didn't actually forget to tell Jordan. He forgot that it was coming. I was like being like a weird, mysterious witch about it. Like, you might get mail soon. And then mail arrived. It was from the Cloud Appreciation Society in England. And I just didn't want to throw him under the bus in the zine. But I feel bad about lying about it because I try not to lie. Here's the bad mood bag, and then I have a little bag full of marbles. I have a nice little bag filled with nice little treasures that I paw through when I'm feeling poorly. It makes me happy to see these things. And I don't know, there's a lot of stuff in here. It's kind of too much to look at, but there's a nice little handkerchief, nice little dog, and I stole this green landscaping rock from my front yard in San Francisco. I guess I shouldn't really talk about this if this is going to be on YouTube forever. That rock came from nowhere. So that's the bad mood bag. But it's funny because I made it right before the pandemic hit. It's meant to be like a travel kit. You're having a shitty day at work? Like, no problem. And then I don't leave my house anymore. So I don't really use that. Secular communion. So here's my show and tell for that, which is the new tape this year from the band The Mountain Goats. This isn't a communion in a religious sense. I'm not religious at all, but more about a profound group experience. It could be anything, really. A punk show, a protest, an AA meeting. My most recent secular communion occurred when the Mountain Goats released a video for the new song For the Snakes, which is on this little this tape. We Mountain Goats fans totally lost our shit because the video featured a beloved Panasonic boombox, which is a long story. I immediately started weeping when the song started. I needed that song and the feeling of sharing life and beauty and joy with people who understood. I guess that's why I wrote the zine too. And then the final thing is collective motivation, or Como as I call it, like the lake in Italy. And here are all my green bouncy balls in a giant ass pickle jar that I share, the collection I share with my friend Kaylin, who I'm about to talk about. My friend Kaylin and I started the activity called collective motivation because life is short, it's hard to finish projects, and creativity is more fun with friends. We talk every other week for about 30 minutes each time, and we review our prior creative goals and set new ones for the future. Sometimes we'll read the same book or take the same class, and then we'll talk about how we didn't do the homework because homework sucks. Nothing motivates me more than our Como deadlines. I'm scrambling to finish the zine before our call tomorrow. And done. And I do actually have Como tomorrow, so that's real. I've never been good at endings. That's it. Thanks, everyone. I really appreciate being here. It's nice to see your faces. Whew.
Good job, Gina.
Thanks.
I noticed your pickle jar had green bouncy balls. What about other colored bouncy balls?
Well, I have one jar per color, but green is my favorite color. So this is actually, it lives in my bedroom in the home museum. Kaylin and I started collecting bouncy balls when we lived at a co-op in Santa Cruz together in college in 2004. So we have 16 years of a bouncy ball collection, and we kind of so it's both of ours. We kind of send it back and forth, like whenever one of us has a nice thing. Kaylin used to buy me a bunch in college, and then Kaylin opened a bakery in San Jose, and I gave back a bunch of the bouncy balls for the bakery. That was really fun. Sorry, motorcycle gang just started driving by. I live on a very loud street. It's you gotta get used to it. So maybe I should mute myself.
When I came out to stay with Gina, her room did kind of feel like a museum, and there was definitely collections of things. And when I see that jar of bouncy balls, I'm like, she has more bouncy balls than that. I remember piles and piles of bouncy balls.
I was laughing right at the beginning because if we were in the other room, I could show you the couch that Billy slept on when he was in my apartment.
That's what I do during non-pandemic. I travel around and sleep on people's couches. Johnny, I'm gonna come stay with you next, okay? Next time. Thank you very much, Gina. Up next, we're gonna have Ed reading. Ed one thing he does is the word distribution, which is a zine distro. He does a bunch of zines, a lot of which he doesn't put his name on for some reason. We've talked about this, but he also, how long ago? Maybe a couple years ago, started doing Pencil of the Week. Are you doing?
It was probably like 2 years ago, I think, probably 2.5, something like that.
Yeah, he does a zine called Pencil of the Week. Here's one of the new ones. The title, people get confused because they think, oh, it probably comes out every week. It doesn't come out every week, but and he uses one pencil a week and then reviews it in the zine, and it's awesome. And I'm also wearing one of his T-shirts today, and he also put out a pencil calendar. But he also has zines about music and traveling and all kinds of stuff. He's all over the place. So Ed, if you want, you can introduce yourself a little bit and you can go for it.
All right. Well, thank you for warming up the crowd there, Billy. Gina, great job. It was great hearing you read. Thank you all for having me. Thank you, Perry, for putting this on. Billy hit most of it. I'm from Jersey City. I run the Word distro. I've been making zines for a long time. And I'm going to read something. It was wild. I was going to read something else, but at the last minute, I decided to change it because I was thinking back on the zines that I put out this year. And this one, I guess, really is like a time capsule. This is from a trip that I took in February to Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, to go see Punxsutawney Phil predict the weather. And thinking back on it now, you'll hear some of the things that I say. It's just an insane concept to think, just being surrounded by thousands and thousands of strangers at this point in life. So let's jump in the little time portal here, and we'll go back to February of this year. And this is a trip that I took with a friend of mine at the time. All right, so we'll go back to Saturday, February 1st. The town of Punxsutawney pulls out no stops and puts on one heck of a show. Ice and wood carving exhibits, craft fairs, introductions into the Meteorologist Hall of Fame, free showings of the movie Groundhog Day, just over and over and over again, historical tours, music, food trucks, and much more. But NG and I decided to start our day by making our own trek to the Knob to see what we were getting ourselves into the next day. We visited the newly built center and gift shop for a little education and hospitality. It was here that we learned that if you want to be one of Phil's famous handlers, you need to know that it's not a question of if you are going to get bit, but when, because it is going to happen. We went out to see if we could get near his stump and saw that you could take a photo with it, so we jumped in line. While in line, we saw a reporter from the Weather Channel with her crew, and after a quick conversation with some people in line, he had to turn away because they were about to shoot a live promo. About 19 seconds later, this happened. Reporter: where are you from, and do you want more winter or an early spring? NG: we're from Jersey City, New Jersey, and we're Team Spring. Reporter: and you? Me: spring. That's right. We were on live TV, speaking roles even. Some actors would kill for that kind of screen time. Since it was a live TV segment, we'll never get to see it. But somehow NG was able to get her parents to turn it on, and they saw it right in the nick of time. Her dad said I look like I'm in the witness protection program, and he was mostly right there. After snapping off some photos with the stump, we beat it into town to enjoy some festivities. There were a number of things on our agenda for the day, but we started by walking down the main drag, trying to check out some of the stores. I say trying because most of the businesses on West Mahoning were a madhouse. Good for them, but bad for browsing. It didn't take long before we got tired of it, and we went to Barclay Square to get some space and see some of the wood carvings, check out the food trucks, and get in line to see Phil in his burrow. The guy in front of us was complaining that he didn't see Phil, but when this eagle eye stepped up to the glass, I spotted him pretty quickly and was able to point him out to NG. Phil actually looked a lot like my cat, all curled up and sleeping in the corner. We took our photos and hung around for a walking tour of Punxsutawney by a born and raised Punxsutawney resident, Pam. Pam was a wealth of information, and I think we totally got our money's worth. It was free. When the tour ended, we headed to the local landmark for some lunch at Frank's Star Lunch. Frank's has been there forever, but is being forced out because their building is being demolished in order to expand the IUP Academy of Culinary Arts. Don't worry though, folks. Frank's is relocating a few blocks away to a much newer and larger restaurant. Best of luck, guys. Keep cranking out those amazing French fries. With chili dogs filling our belly and warming our souls, we headed to the Weather Discovery Center. Inside, they have the Meteorologist Hall of Fame and many interactive displays geared towards children. Since NG and I are just adult children, we fit in just fine and had a blast. After that, we were pooped. We took another small loop around town and decided to head back to the hotel for some warmth and a shower. Showered up and warm, we prepared ourselves for the big day main event and our very, very early wake-up call. Sunday, February 2nd. The 1 a.m. alarm came early. Yes, you read that right. It wasn't a typo. We did indeed actually set our alarm for 1 a.m. to drive close to an hour, park and walk about 1.5 miles, stand in the cold, all to watch some overgrown rat predict the weather. I mean, if we were doing this damn thing, we may as well do it right and get a good view of Phil, though. So 1 a.m. wake up it was. We were so excited that the time of day mattered little. Layered up and checked out, we headed to the Knob. There's no parking at the Knob the day of the event, so you either need bus tickets, which were sold out by the time we tried to buy them, or you're hoofing it. Parked in a lot off of East Mahone Street, we started our trek in the cold and dark morning. A few minutes into our journey, we met up with a young couple from New York City who were doing the same thing. It was cool to have some new people to talk to during the walk. Right at around 3:15 a.m., we arrived at the Knob, greeted by Taylor Swift's Shake, blasting from the speakers on stage, and people already crowding the front railings. We got a good spot and didn't leave for the next 4 hours. The ensuing hours, we were entertained by various acts on stage, some good, some not so much. They had the final two contestants of the previous night's talent show battling out for first place. One act was the original Groundhog Day song, sung by a local, and the other was a cover of a Whitney Houston song. On the surface, you'd say the original song sung by a local would win and it wouldn't even be close. Well, what you can't see here is that the cover was sung by an 8-year-old girl who had a crazy set of pipes on her. She blew the crowd away. That poor dude never stood a chance. The guys from Dueling Pianos, based in Baltimore, Maryland, did a few songs, as did a barbershop quartet made up entirely of active military members. There were a few other local acts and lots of Groundhog Day parody songs. One or two of those parody songs may still be stuck in my head today, actually. Between 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. was probably the coldest and darkest hour of my life. We were already been there for 2 hours, and there was still plenty of time before us until daybreak. It was somewhere during this hour that I lost feeling in my toes, and then eventually my whole foot. Then the other one went numb. I tried moving them to the music and chain-smoking cigarettes to stay warm and occupied, but it wasn't working. I was cold. I was bored. I was about to say something to NG about my feet when I turned and spotted some kid wearing Nike tennis shoes just hanging out in the mud with us. I thought to myself, if this kid ain't losing toes to frostbite, then neither am I. He got on some Pete Sampras pro shoes, and I got these boots. I gotta be good. Since I couldn't feel my feet anyway, I just forgot they were there and focused my attention back onto the stage. By 6:30 a.m., the crowd was large and getting larger by the minute. Every time I turned around, there was a sea of folks behind us, but we were still only about 2 rows back from the front railings. All the freezing and boredom was starting to pay off. Our spot was amazing. The sky started to change a bit, the time was getting closer, and the intensity was really building. Soon, Phil would be predicting an early spring or 6 more weeks of winter. Right around 7 a.m. is when members of the Punxsutawney Groundhog Club Inner Circle started showing up, making speeches, and taking their place on stage. By the time the president of the PGCIC showed up, we were ready to see Phil in all his glory. 7:25, the president rapped his cane 3 times on the stump to awake Phil, and then, well, you should really go to Punxsutawney one day to see how the rest shakes out. I don't want to ruin the show, but I will tell you that no sooner did the president announce that Phil's choice was an early spring did it start snowing. So much for an early spring, I thought. Getting out, surprisingly, wasn't that big of an issue. Usually when a few thousand people get together, leaving at the same time can be disastrous, but not so much here. The hardest part for me was trying to navigate myself with 2 feet that hadn't had feeling in a couple hours. It was a bit difficult, but I managed, and by about halfway back to the car, I started getting some feeling back in my feet, and for the first time in a while, I wasn't worried about losing any toes to frostbite. I may have been foolish not saying anything earlier, but I didn't want to overreact and ruin the day. Turns out I made the correct decision. Good thing, too, because otherwise I'd be walking around with a pretty mean limp right now. We got back and hung out in the car for a little while, trying to warm up in a bit before making our final lap around town. There were 2 craft fairs going on that we wanted to check out, one of which I scored an awesome coaster to commemorate the historical day, which I actually have right here. Awesome coaster. Groundhog. After a few more photos, we were beat and still had a long drive ahead of us. We stopped at the high school for a minute, drove through Rossiter, and then headed back east. It snowed through most of Pennsylvania, making the drive a little slower than normal, but overall not too terrible. Both of us napped a bit in the car while the other gritted it out behind the wheel. Caffeine can only do so much before you start reaching the point of diminishing returns. We made it home just in time to shower, make some food, and watch the Super Bowl. While it was a decent game, I was so wiped I couldn't tell you one single thing that happened after halftime. I was just waiting for that last second to tick off so that I could go to bed. I don't know if my bed has ever felt as good as it did that night. So, Billy, I think this is one of those, trips that you were talking about that you can't really do no more. I mean, I would have never known half of that about Punxsutawney had I not gone. I mean,
That's the thing, man. And Zine reading gets you a little bit closer. At least it's cool to hear you talk about it, but it makes me want to go and see it myself.
But yeah, it is wild to think about the fact that, yeah, I was surrounded by thousands and thousands of strangers. And this was just weeks before the world spiraled out of control. It probably should have made a left-hand turn at Albuquerque, and it just ended up where it wasn't supposed to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's funny, just the little things of, just taking little weekend trips. I used to do it all the time. And yeah, I love being in a big crowd, actually. Sometimes I get claustrophobic, but I love being at a show or a flea market or something, and just, I don't know, there's something fun about it. And yeah, now it seems totally weird. Even because now you think back, like, well, that crowd didn't have COVID, but they probably had the flu, they had colds, and they had like, there's still like 1,000 people breathing on you. Like, that's horrible. Like, why would we ever do that?
Yeah, you think about the punk rock shows with people sweating and jumping all over you and sharing bottles with friends at parties. And dude, now you just look at it. I see two people hugging. I'm like, yo, what are you guys doing, man?
I know. Dude, sharing bottles with strangers. Like, I've been at so many punk shows, and like, everyone's just sharing everything because that's part of the fun. And that's, you think, I'm tough, it'll be fine. And it is fine. But then, yeah, now it's like, this seems like the worst idea. It's funny when Alicia and I are like watching like movies now. Like, there'll be like a movie where there's like a dinner party and we're just like, COVID. Like, people are shaking hands, like, COVID, what are you doing? Don't shake hands. Like, it feels weird to watch it on TV. Even like, a movie from a year ago seems weird now.
Yeah, so this was just from earlier this year, but yeah, what are you gonna do? So thank you everybody for sitting and listening to me here. I'm gonna introduce our fourth and final reader, coming to us from the Charm City, Baltimore, Maryland. We got a relative newcomer to the zine world. He's been involved with his pencil blog, and he has a part of a podcast that is up. He just said 7 years it's been on, a Raceable podcast. But I just started making zines earlier this year, and man, he has been a zine machine. As all the ones that Billy is showing. I have another one over here, OCD. He's got some that he's done with his daughter. His daughter is involved, which is really, really cool. Passing it on to the next generation. And I'm really happy to have him here. Really excited. And so, Johnny, you want to take it away?
Hey, thank you. So I just put out my 12th pencil book, but they don't make such good public reading. So since we're allowed to use bad language, I'm going to read a little version of The Night Before Christmas in Baltimore East. So I'm from a neighborhood in Baltimore called Hamden, which, if you've ever seen John Waters films, was in Pecker. So, like, where the voting booth was, where they did things you don't usually do in a church, was the church basement where you had Boy Scouts, and the church was really pissed. Yeah, so this is The Night Before Christmas. If it was Baltimore, my mother says that she can do a better job, but I don't think so. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house, nothing was stirring, not even no mouse. The cooler was chilling the Coors cans with care and hopes that Santa Claus soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in them beds, while visions of crab cakes danced in their heads. And Ma in her curlers and I my O's cap had just settled down for a long Sunday's nap. When out in the alley there rose such a clatter, I jumped out of bed, said, what the hell's the matter? On the way to the window, I was scratching my rash. I opened the blinds and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow lit up Uncle Charlie and his very best hoe. When what do my wondering eyes should appear but a real small sleigh and 8 goddamn reindeer. A little old driver, so pudgy and thick, I said, holy shit, Ma, I think it's St. Nick. More rapid than an eye rock as coarse as they came, and he screamed and he shouted and he cursed him by name. Damn Joey, damn Bobby, damn Ray and Ronnie, damn Ashley, damn Jessica, damn Bubby and Donnie. Get up on the porch, get up on the wall. If you don't want to be glued, move your asses off. As plastic bags before a thunderstorm fly, when the bus goes by and blow up in the sky. So up to the row house, the reindeers flew with that sleigh full of toys and that fat ass too. And then real quick I heard on the roof all the peeing and pooping in each little hoof. As I drew in my head and would turn it around, Down the chimney, old Santa Claus came with a bound. He was dressed all from Walmart, from his head to his foot, and he said, "Hey, you better stay put." A real big bag was hung on his back, and he looked like a dirt merchant, dragging his sack. His eyes looked all tired, his breath smelled like cherry. He acted kind of cranky, and he wasn't that merry. That's what he looked like. He opened his mouth and yelled, "Hey, you, where's your bathroom? I gotta poo." He had a lit cigarette stuck between his teeth, and he let out a big fart, a strange Christmas queef. He had a fat face and a big fucking belly that shook when he sharted like a bowl full of jelly. He was ignorant as shit, so I said, "Go fuck yourself. Get out of my house, you overgrown elf." He pulled out a bat, and his face got all red. He held it up high and took a swing at my head. He said, "You're lazy, you're ugly, and you don't even work. You ain't getting no presents. I think you're a jerk." Then he stuck his finger right up his nose and let a big fart, and up the chimney he rose. He jumped in his sleigh, and to his deers gave a whistle, and they flew right away like a tomahawk missile. I heard that asshole yell as he flew out of sight, "You just ruined Christmas. I shit myself tonight." That's it.
Yes, thank you, Johnny.
Thank you so much for reading that, because I read it myself when I got it, but I mean to hear it live like that, I mean, I there's no way I could have done it that way. I mean, we sound different just a couple of miles north up here,
John, thanks so much for sending me that zine, because I lived in Baltimore for 2 years. So even when I read it, I was trying to do the Baltimore accent, but just the fact that I have to try to do the accent, I'm like, I can hear it, but I really can't quite get it. And it's funny, like going back to the thing that I read, like people in Baltimore don't talk like that, but sometimes they do. And like when you go to Baltimore expecting everyone to talk like that, and they don't, but then, once a week you'll hear somebody on the bus, you're like, holy shit, that is straight out of John Waters' movie.
Yeah, go meet my mom, who says she's from Pollentown. We were in Boston, and she ordered water, and the waitress and her had a back and forth, but water, and it was funny.
Water.
It's water, hon.
I love it. Yeah, I think that's it for our zine reading tonight. Thank you everyone for reading. Thank you everyone for tuning in and chatting in the YouTube page. Thank you to Perry and Paragraph for putting it on. Does anyone have any last things they want to say?
Thank you all for tuning in, everybody.
Yeah, see you next year.
Yay.
Thanks,
Gina,
everybody.
Before we leave, Gina, did you want to show us your awesome little puppy dog there in the background?
Well, I have two. This is Future Man. I know that's not who you're talking about, but I'm going to do a Future Man shout out anyway. Best dog. Also, I want to introduce my pillow. I got it at a store in downtown Oakland. It's cool. I saw this dog pillow like on the top of a bookshelf. Like clearly a prior customer had tried to hide it so like they could come back and bring the $2 needed to purchase it, but absolutely not. I bought it and it is really good. I have really been collecting a lot of dog art over the years. It's like kind of getting out of control, but yeah, Future Man's always there. It's nice.
And I know that was a random aside, but I realized people watching at home might have thought that was a real, dog sitting in the background. Because whenever I stayed at your house, like I had a couple moments where I walked through and did like a double take on your dog. So just wanted to say
that's
hello.
really nice. While I'm at, my friend Sable, the dog, died during the pandemic, and Sable's mom, Shannon, is here watching us. So I also love Sable a lot, even though there's no Sable artwork yet currently in this screen. But next Zoom call, Sable's going to be here. Side note.
Before we get out of here, everybody, let's give ourselves some plugs. I recently just did Behind the Zines, as I said earlier. This will be mailing out soon, and I'm also working on a new casino zine. Ed, you have anything in the works?
Well, always something in the works. You ain't a zinester if you don't have about 4 different things in the works, dude. But I read from Torn America, Up the Punks, And just check me out on theworddistribution.com. Everything is up on there. And if you need a calendar, you think you have something fun to write on it for the upcoming year, check it out. I just released a pencil-related calendar that I think came out super awesome. So check me out there. Thank you all for tuning in and spending another Sunday night at home with us.
Right. Gina, you got anything going on? Anything coming up? New website?
Yeah, I have a new website. It went live this week. It's pretty silly. It's my name misspelled, which is GEENUH.com. Not actually how you spell my name, but you can if you want to. I don't really care. I'm going to be working on the next issue of my zine Dribble. Dribble's not really that loved by people. People don't really care about it, but I care about it deeply. So Dribble number 2 is going to be coming out, I don't know, middle of 2021, assuming everything's going to be fine. It's like an old school variety zine. There's a bunch of different types of stuff, all under one specific theme. The first issue was the new issue, newness, my plan was to have the second issue be the old issue as the opposite, but then the world collapsed. So I might do health as my second issue because I love optimism. That's going to be nice. I kind of want to do this really embarrassing shout out. I wasn't going to talk about it. I kind of thought Billy would, but anyway, Shit's Fucked, the original one, 9 years old, was going to be on the TV show Shrill in season 3. So, I had nothing to do with that. And anyway, I don't know. I think it's funny. I'm definitely not repping Shrill at all. They're just mainstream television, but I do think it's funny. So keep an eye out.
I love that. And I thought about mentioning that when I was giving your introduction, but I was like, I don't know if she wants me to say that. And I don't know if I can divulge if I can leak this information before the episode's out, that some show on Hulu is going to show her zine. But it's funny because everyone I know that does zines, they all have their different little levels of accomplishment and achievement. Oh, you did that? That's cool. Oh, you went to that zine fest? I've never been to that one. And you're getting something on TV. That's awesome. That's next level. I love it.
I have to
set the bar high, Gina.
Personally, not to be a total bummer all the time, but I think it's totally unethical for a television show to even be filming at all during a pandemic. So I'll believe it when I see it. They definitely shouldn't have filmed season 3. That's bananas. But anyway, maybe it'll be there. They told me it's going to be there. I don't know. I think it's funny.
I mean, Gina, shit's fucked. What can you do? I mean, they're doing their best. What do you want?
Dude, health before profit, always.
Johnny, you have anything to talk about? You have zine news or podcast news? I was curious, how often do you upload new stuff to the podcast? Is that a regular schedule?
Yeah, about every other week.
Cool.
We took a little off for Christmas, but we'll be back in 2 weeks, a week and a half. But I just put out my 12th issue of Pencil Revolution, and so they're little ones, and they fit in a tiny little box that you get for free if you get 12, and they fit better. Mine's falling apart. You have to glue them yourself. But
that's awesome though, Johnny.
It'll be back next year and not one a week. Just slow it down a little bit.
Cool. Well, I guess that's it. Thank you again to everybody. Perry, thank you very much. Thank you, Pyrograph. If you guys have never been to pyrograph.com, check it out. Check out the website that Gina was talking about if you got a couple extra bucks you want to donate to a good cause. And other than that, check y'all later.
Thanks, everybody. It was a great time.
Thanks, everyone.
I'm gonna click leave now.